High atop Mount Sipylus, in a palace of unimaginable splendor, lived Tantalus. His palace, a marvel of ancient architecture, stood as a testament to his immense wealth and power. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, and the halls echoed with the laughter of his court. He was a king of immense wealth and power. His lands were fertile, stretching as far as the eye could see, covered in lush greenery and bountiful crops. His people prospered under his rule, living in harmony and abundance. The kingdom of Tantalus was a beacon of prosperity in the ancient world. Tantalus, however, craved more than earthly riches. Despite his vast wealth and the adoration of his people, he felt an insatiable hunger for something beyond the mortal realm. He spent countless hours in contemplation, his mind wandering to the divine and the eternal. He yearned for the company of gods. The mortal world with all its splendor seemed insufficient to quench his thirst for greatness. He longed to walk among the immortals, to share in their wisdom and power. Zeus, king of Olympus, was Tantalus's father. This connection to the divine gave Tantalus a sense of entitlement, a belief that he was destined for more than the mortal coil. This divine lineage set Tantalus apart from all other mortals. He was not just a king, he was the son of a god. This heritage filled him with pride and a sense of superiority. He was strong and handsome, with a quick wit and a charming tongue. His physical prowess and intellectual acumen made him a formidable figure, admired by many. These qualities endeared him to the gods. They saw in him a reflection of their own greatness, a mortal who could stand among them as an equal. They welcomed him as one of their own. Tantalus was often invited to the feasts of the gods, where he dined on ambrosia and nectar, the food and drink of immortality. Tantalus basked in their favor. He reveled in the attention and admiration of the gods, feeling more powerful and important than ever before. He reveled in the glory of Olympus. The divine realm, with its eternal beauty and endless pleasures, became his second home. He felt invincible, untouchable. Little did he know his privileged position would be his undoing. The gods, though welcoming, were also capricious and easily offended. Tantalus's hubris, his belief that he was equal to the gods, would soon lead to his downfall. The seeds of his downfall were sown in the very heart of his opulence. His desire to prove himself worthy of the gods' favor led him to commit acts of arrogance and defiance. In his quest for immortality, Tantalus would ultimately face the wrath of the very beings he sought to emulate. The gods showered Tantalus with unimaginable gifts. He dined with them on Olympus, partaking of ambrosia and nectar. These divine substances granted immortality and eternal youth. Tantalus, however, began to take these privileges for granted. He grew accustomed to the company of gods. Their conversations, once fascinating, now seemed mundane. Their games and feasts, once exhilarating, now felt routine. The mortal world faded from his memory. His heart, once filled with gratitude, now brimmed with arrogance. He started to believe he was equal to the gods, even superior to some. He failed to see the danger lurking beneath his gilded cage. His hubris would soon cost him everything. Tantalus, blinded by pride, began to test the limits of divine patience. He boasted of his closeness to Zeus. He claimed to know the secrets of the gods. He even dared to challenge their wisdom. His actions did not go unnoticed. Whispers of his arrogance reached Zeus's ears. The other gods expressed their concern, but Zeus, blinded by paternal love, dismissed their warnings. He believed his son would come to his senses. He was wrong. Tantalus, drunk on his own self-importance, continued down a path of no return. His heart, once filled with the light of divine favor, had grown dark with pride. He was about to commit an act of unthinkable transgression. Section 4. The Stolen Nectar, a Gift for Mortals. In the annals of Greek mythology, few tales are as audacious and cautionary as that of Tantalus. His story is one of hubris, betrayal, and the dire consequences of defying the divine order. Tantalus's arrogance reached its peak when he decided to share the gods' secrets with mortals. He was not content with merely being favored by the gods. He sought to elevate himself above his peers and even challenge the gods' authority. He snuck into the celestial pantry and stole a flask of nectar and a pouch of ambrosia. These were no ordinary items. They were the very essence of divinity, granting immortality and eternal youth to those who consumed them. He then returned to Sipylus, his ill-gotten treasures hidden beneath his cloak. The journey back was fraught with tension, as Tantalus knew the gravity of his actions, yet his desire to impress his mortal companions overshadowed any fear of divine retribution. he gathered his mortal friends and family. They were curious and eager, having heard whispers of Tantalus's close ties with the gods. Little did they know, they were about to witness an act of unprecedented defiance. With a flourish, he revealed the stolen goods. The flask of nectar shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and the pouch of ambrosia exuded a fragrance that was both intoxicating and divine. He boasted of his daring feat, claiming to have outsmarted the gods themselves. His words were filled with pride and a sense of invincibility, as if he believed he had truly become untouchable. He then offered them a taste of immortality. The allure of eternal life was too great to resist, and his guests were captivated by the promise of becoming more than mere mortals. His guests, unaware of the consequences, readily accepted. They reached out with eager hands, their eyes wide with anticipation and wonder. They drank the nectar and tasted the ambrosia. For a moment it seemed as though Tantalus had succeeded. The mortals felt a surge of vitality and euphoria as if they were touching the very essence of the gods. But their joy was short-lived. The initial euphoria gave way to a growing sense of unease. Whispers of doubt and fear began to spread among the group. The gods were not to be trifled with. From their celestial abode they watched in fury as Tantalus's audacity unfolded. The skies darkened, and a sense of impending doom loomed over Sipylus. Their retribution would be swift and merciless. The gods' wrath descended upon Tantalus and his guests, a stark reminder that the divine order was not to be challenged. The mortals who had tasted the forbidden nectar and ambrosia were struck with a curse, their fleeting moment of glory turning into an eternal punishment. Section 5. The Test of Piety. Can the gods be fooled? News of Tantalus's betrayal spread like wildfire through Olympus. The gods were furious. They demanded justice. Tantalus, once favored by the gods, had committed an unforgivable act. He had dared to deceive the divine beings, thinking he could outsmart them. The betrayal was not just a personal affront to Zeus, but a challenge to the very order of the cosmos. Zeus, his heart heavy with disappointment and anger, decided to test his son's loyalty one last time. He pondered deeply, reflecting on the times Tantalus had been in the company of the gods, sharing their secrets, and partaking in their divine feasts. How could someone so close to the divine realm fall so far from grace? He disguised himself as a weary traveler and descended to Sipylus. The transformation was meticulous. Zeus ensured that no trace of his divine aura remained. He wanted to see Tantalus's true nature, unclouded by the fear or reverence of the gods. He approached Tantalus's palace and begged for food and shelter. The palace, grand and opulent, stood as a testament to Tantalus's wealth and power. The traveler, with his tattered clothes and weary demeanor, was a stark contrast to the splendor of the palace. Tantalus, consumed by his own grandeur, failed to recognize the king of the gods. He sat on his throne, surrounded by luxury, his mind preoccupied with thoughts of his own importance and the admiration of his subjects. He scoffed at the traveler's pleas. The idea of sharing his wealth with a mere beggar was beneath him. His arrogance blinded him to the true identity of the traveler before him. He claimed to have no food to spare. Despite the abundance that surrounded him, Tantalus's heart was hardened. He saw the traveler as nothing more than a nuisance, unworthy of his generosity. He even mocked the traveler's ragged appearance. His laughter echoed through the grand halls of the palace, a cruel reminder of his disdain for those he deemed inferior. This act of cruelty sealed Tantalus's fate. The palace, once a symbol of his power, now felt dark and foreboding. The air grew heavy with an impending sense of doom. Zeus, his patience exhausted, revealed his true form. The transformation was swift and terrifying. The traveler, once humble and weary, now stood as the mighty king of the gods, his eyes blazing with divine fury. The palace trembled before the god's wrath. The ground shook, and the walls began to crumble. Tantalus, realizing his grave mistake, could do nothing but watch in horror as his world collapsed around him. The gods had been fooled, but only for a moment. In the end, divine justice was swift and unforgiving.